Hey guys, what's up? My name is Monica Ituk and I am a fashion and lifestyle blogger. Okay, so 5 things about me. Let's see. 1, I was born and raised in Toronto, Ontario. Yeah. And then I moved to Nigeria when I was 9 and moved back to Toronto when I was 18. And then I moved to the States when I met my husband, which was probably, I did the whole back and forth thing for a while since we started dating in 2002. And yeah, and then I moved in like 2009, so right before my son was born. So yeah, that is kind of like where I've lived in the world. So I've lived in Toronto, I've lived in Nigeria, and I have lived in Denver, and now I live in Atlanta. Yeah, so that's one fun, or I don't know if that's one fact, but yeah, basically where I lived. I started blogging 7 years ago. When I started blogging, literally no one was making any money blogging. It was just kind of like a fun thing to do. So I have a career in luxury fashion, basically. So I was always that person that my clients would say, I wish I could they wish they could take me home with them, basically. So what blogging did was it kind of created this, you know, scenario where I could go home with my clients and basically offer kind of like inspiration. Yeah, so kind of that's, you know, I think that's kind of where I started. When I first started blogging, no one was making money blogging. Like, it was kind of like, you know, blogs were just kind of this outlet where people could share their passion for things. So my passion is fashion, and at the time was fashion, so it was the platform where I could share my passion for all things fashion, putting outfits together, looking luxe without spending that much money. If there was one thing that I learned from working in luxury retail, it was that, you know, you really didn't have to spend a lot of money to have the look. It really depended on how you put it together. You know, there are a lot of pieces that I absolutely adore. There are designers that I, you know, worship per se, but you know, in this day and age, there's so much fast fashion and there's so many designers out there that kind of replicate what the major houses were doing. So it was a matter of just, you know, coming up with their own concepts or their ideas, or imitating or being inspired by the big brands and kind of making affordable fashion. And you know, we saw the rise of all these major designers kind of partnering with your Target and partnering with your H&M to make high-end fashion accessible to everybody. Okay, another fun fact about me, I am number 3 out of 4 kids. My parents have 4 kids, 3 girls and 1 boy. I am the only one that lives outside of Canada. Everyone else lives in Canada, and I live in Atlanta, but I am one of 4 siblings. Oh, and I'm the 3rd child, so I do have 3rd child syndrome. Because I am the 3rd child, I swore that I would never have 3 kids because I don't like being the 3rd child. I feel like with the 3rd child, you kind of feel left out a little bit. So I'm like, I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted 2 kids. I was lucky enough to have a boy and a girl that I absolutely adore, equal amount of love. They don't have a choice but to be each other's best friends. Literally, they don't have a choice. So there's not gonna be a 3rd child that's gonna ever feel left out. Oh, I started blogging. So I started blogging full time a little over 3 years ago. You know, I just felt like I had hit a wall in terms of what I was doing work-wise, and I was continuing to see success with my blogging. I think my aha moment My aha moment was when I got offered my first ambassadorship with a major brand. They offered to fly me, little old me, to New York City, pay for everything, accommodation, whatnot. I had already started getting like little collaborations, paid for collaborations here and there, but this one, they wanted to go all out. And I think then I probably had like maybe 50,000 followers or even less than that. But they were like, you know, we want you to be our ambassador. You know, they wanted me to create a certain amount of content throughout the years. They wanted me to come to New York. They were gonna fly me to New York, talk to, you know, just to educate me about the brand and whatnot. And then they asked me for my rate. And then back then, there weren't that many people, like I said, there weren't that many people when I started that were, you know, were charging to create content. And so I really had no idea how to price myself for the amount of content they asked, and flying out to New York and my time, and, you know, filming there and all of that stuff. So I was really, really clueless in terms of what to charge. So I called my sister and I asked her, I was like, you know, I just got this major offer and they were asking for A, Y, B, Z, whatever, but I have no idea what to ask. I had a little rate card, you know. She's just like, you know what? Put all the numbers together, bill your time for travel, bill your time for being in New York. You know, what would you charge for a daily rate? But just think about, you know, in terms of like an hourly rate, and just basically think of the highest amount that you feel is reasonable and not too far off from your rate and offer, you know, and you know, tell them that was what you would ask. Guess what, guys? I thought of my highest rate possible at the time, and they accepted it without blinking. That's when I knew I had to quit my job. So after they accepted that offer without blinking, I also knew that I had undersold myself. And I knew that if one brand was willing to pay me that amount of money for literally just creating content that I already loved, it was a brand that I already loved, I knew that, you know what, I had to quit my job and I had to pursue this more. I did realize that the more you put into something, the more you get out of it, and quitting my job was probably the best decision ever. So after I quit my job, I literally made a profit my first year. I decided that I was going to make this a business. This wasn't just gonna be something where, you know, I dressed up, I took pictures, I did all the work that went into creating content and just spent the money anyhow. I made Odd by Monica Inc., which is a business. I, you know, had my monthly bills, I had my budgets, whatnot. And after the first year, quitting my job, blogging full time with all the expenses, and it is very expensive to blog. Don't be fooled, because this is an expensive business. Like, you are constant, especially as a fashion blogger, it's expensive to constantly buy clothes. Even though I do high and low luxe fashion, the highs pretty much kill the budget every time. But with that being said, I still made a profit, a great profit my first year blogging. And then the second year, my income was tripled. The third year, which we just ended, amazing, you know, counter to last year. So I've been very grateful to just making that decision. Definitely the best decision. This year has already been on to a great start, and I don't see myself slowing down at all. I truly love what I do. It's exhausting. It takes a lot out of you. You have to be patient. You have to, you really have to be strong and just keep on doing it, because you're gonna find a lot of lows. There's gonna be a lot of highs, but there's gonna be equal amount of lows to combat the highs. So you just have to keep on going and know that, you know what, it's worth it. It's worth anything good, basically, takes a lot. So I would say to just keep on going, and why slow down?